Hello and welcome to the PitStop Report, where today I'm joined by another fan of Formula One. Finally, 2 weeks in a row, an actual fan of Formula One. Chris joins me today.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Such short notice as well.
Not a problem at all, sir.
Well, of course, no racing this week still. We're still waiting for Miami, which could well be cancelled if we're hearing that rain and thunder could cancel. And I beg it's not, because I've waited so long. But let's talk about what has been going on in the last week. Let's start with an interesting story. Everyone in Formula One is going to prison. That's right. Every Formula One driver, recent and current, is being currently investigated by the Italian tax authorities and will possibly face a criminal offence for unpaid tax, because in Italy, any athlete who is earning money in the country, they're required to pay a tax on that said income. However, in the recent years, the law enforcement hasn't been enforcing this very well. So a team has been put together to investigate all the athletes who have owed them tax. And it could mean the drivers face a hefty fine as well as paying the tax they are owed. Yes. And it could mean that Arvid Lindblad becomes the youngest Formula One world champion and the only rookie, unless you count Farina in the debut season of Formula One, to win the world championship.
It's quite a strange thing, isn't it? I mean, why have you not enforced this for so many years? And I suspect the teams will go down this line and say, well, you've just brought this to our attention now.
If there's one thing
we'll play
Formula
from
One
here.
teams like to do is they like to fight with anyone, and I'm sure that they will all be screaming down the phone saying, you could have enforced this years ago and you're doing it now. You've missed your chance.
I imagine that's where they will probably go, and then it will probably jump higher and higher and get into government level.
Yeah.
And it will just be a thing that will go on for the whole season until the end of the season, and it will get brushed underneath the carpet. It is
as always.
I think is where we'll go with that one.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see that. Even if they do charge all the teams, I'm sure Ferrari will get a little excuse to not have to. Maybe Kimi as well.
Although it would be nice to see Arvid Lindblad be world champion in his first season.
Imagine that. I mean, we talk about Lewis Hamilton as the GOAT, but Lewis had to wait a couple of seasons to get his world championship. Arvid Lindblad does it in his debut year. I think it's undisputed. And
on his showing so far, out of the rookies, you'd say he's going to be top rookie.
Oh, yeah, I think he's easily the best rookie this year. But it's tight competition between him and himself. But I think he is such a joyous talent. I think he is going to go far in his career.
I watched Arvid coming up through the ranks, and certainly in F3 and F2, he shone.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Last season, amazing in F2, and he had a few incidents here and there, as you do as a driver. But I think he's really maturing nicely into a real top talent.
I think he's come on really quickly into that car, because we see other rookies that have jumped into other cars. Different formula, obviously, because the rules have changed, but it's taken them a season or so to get going, whereas he's jumped in.
Yeah, it points on debut.
And he's off.
And it's, you do see some drivers. See people like, Logan Sargent, for example. Nick De Vries, I think, is a real good example. Nick De Vries, Formula 2 champion, Formula E champion, one of the best talents in the junior series. He came to F1 finally, and it all just went wrong.
Indeed. And
that was such a shame, because you knew he had the talent, but he just couldn't put it into the F1 car. And Lindblad has done that so quickly.
And we know if you don't put it in first straight away,
exactly.
That's it. Bye bye. Let's have the next one along.
And especially in that season, Danny Rick, who was a Red Bull reserve driver. If you get the chance to put him in a car again, they're always going to take that.
Of course they are. Yeah.
And Nick De Vries, unfortunately, lost his drive, and I think he's gone back to Formula E now, hasn't he?
He's probably gone back to Formula E. I didn't actually know he'd gone back there, but that was probably...
I think he has. I think he was so good in Formula E, and then he jumped to F1. And I almost think maybe that jump's a bit too much of a jump nowadays.
I think unless you've had those testing chances through a season, or maybe a couple of seasons, unless you've been out on that track for quite a sustained length of time, I think you are going to struggle when you jump formula.
Yeah, I think luckily F2 to F1 is a slightly smaller progression, but especially if you go from something like IndyCar or one of those other series where it's a completely different style of racing, to jump from that into F1 is incredibly difficult. I think in F2 this season, Colton Herta, I think he was in IndyCar last year, F2 this season.
Colton Herta is a serial winner in IndyCar. Seeing him in his very first race in F2, struggled.
Exactly, it's so different. The aerodynamics of the car and just even the tracks, because in IndyCar you have a lot of oval circuits as well as more traditional race circuits, but an oval to an actual race circuit is so different.
Oh, unbelievable. Even we've seen it go the other way, where we've got Schumacher, who's now gone to IndyCar.
Yeah,
and he's on the street tracks has been okay. When he came to his first oval, nowhere.
No. Yeah,
nowhere.
Because when you're on an oval circuit, you almost never wanting to hit the brake. You're wanting to be slowing down, lifting off the accelerator into the corner, but to actually brake, something you want to avoid because you want to avoid all so many cars around.
The thing with an Indy car on those ovals, and the same with NASCAR, is that they ride the brake.
Yeah.
They ride the brake even though they're on the accelerator, and touching that brake helps you turn. Blipping the accelerator through gears, definitely essential. And again, that makes the car turn by blipping the accelerator, touching the brakes, will all give you turn. And I think that's why they struggle when they come over. It's a totally different show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why we see so many American drivers who are raised on IndyCar and NASCAR. They stay there.
Yeah.
And a lot of American drivers, they come over to Europe to come do these European Formula Series, and they struggle a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think there's one driver that I can think of in IndyCar that would probably come and be successful in Formula One, and it's Alex Palou.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
him and Pato O'Ward, I think as well. Those are easily the top two drivers in IndyCar, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think Alex Palou especially, he is like.
Those two, I can see Alex going, right, well, I've won the championship 4 times now, let's go and do something different.
Yeah, he might go try, maybe see a swap between him and Max if Max has enough of F1.
Yeah.
But I think Max Verstappen, do you reckon he would succeed in IndyCar?
I think he has that. I think Max can pretty much drive any sort of car in any condition and find very quickly how to drive that vehicle.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, if he jumped into an IndyCar, I think he would succeed at a point. If he went into one of the other things much later in life, like like NASCAR, as a lot of drivers do when they get to their 30s and they jump into NASCAR, I think he might find that slightly more challenging because the racing is far more aggressive.
Yes, in F1 you sort of so protected of the car, you don't want to sometimes lunge, whereas in NASCAR it's very much, I will wreck you and I will not care.
Yeah, and they do not.
You see drivers drive along the wall, just destroying the side of their car to just go for an overtake, because that's
Ross
the beautiful
Chastain.
nature. Oh wow, that move was...
That's the only thing I have to say on that point.
Yeah, that was the most ballsy move I think I've ever seen in any motorsport in recent years.
Unfortunately.
And it worked. And
it worked, but they took the victory away from him.
Yeah.
But you can see why.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's such a dangerous move to try that they're always going to ruin it afterwards. But in that moment, when you see him say...
It was amazing.
I'm just going to ride the wall to the checker flag, and I'm not starting to see a good guard or anything. And it's just incredible to see.
I think it's much easier to do that in those cars now, because before they were body parts where like you'd have a wing, you'll have the body, you'll have the bonnet, but now they're composited.
Yeah.
They don't fall apart.
No,
they're just
if you did that with an F1 car, you'd lose a side pod immediately and it'd just be a complete wreck, whereas in NASCAR it's more like a real road car where it will sort of skid, paint, dent it before it will actually rip the car apart.
Indeed. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the track returning to the grid next year. Turkish Grand Prix is back, and I'm so excited to see it back.
I'm excited. Turkey's a fantastic track. We lose races, obviously because of money and funding and whatnot, but you just can't beat those old tracks.
No, I mean, it's one of those where it's a racing track. It's where you see race, and it was such a shame when we lost obviously in 2011 due to low race attendance. That was sort of the main reason we lost it.
Yeah.
And we got it for a couple of years in 2020 and 2021. It was beautiful to have it back.
Indeed.
And Lewis won his seventh. I almost called him an 8-time world champion. Lewis won his 7th world championship there to level Schumacher's record, and Bottas got his last win in F1 so far.
Who knows? He may be 8 times this year.
Yeah, I think there's a chance.
There is a chance.
Ferrari get a bit more consistent throughout a race, then Lewis looks like he's back in a comfortable element again.
I think so, and the changes in the rules and the way the new car is put together suits Lewis. If we think about his first world championship, that car is more akin to when he first started in F1.
Yeah, the ground effect era just was completely anti Lewis Hamilton and what he wanted to do.
Indeed.
Whereas these are a little bit more nimble, a little bit more at times when they are at full power, which unfortunately isn't often. When they are, it's right what Lewis wants, and we saw that in the first opening races where we finally got him on the podium.
The thing I hope that doesn't spoil the Turkish Grand Prix is the new boost rule. That could stop us from having a really good race. I think we have to wait to see what Miami brings us and see what their changes bring us. But that's my only worry about Turkey, is that that's a really fast track.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether that boost will interfere with what fans see as good hard racing.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be such a shame. It's that and Portimao's back as well next year for a couple of years. Those are such popular tracks with fans and drivers because of the racing that we get delivered there. And there is just that worry with these new rules, because we've seen in the first few races where it's just overtake happens, overtake gets taken away immediately on a straight because the drivers can't. That energy boost has gone so quickly.
It is, yeah.
That they just can't keep it up, and it's so toppy-turny, which delivers good moments at times. Because I do like the intertwining battles, but it's for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think we get quite excited when we see the first race and we see what happens there. Cars just going past each other for fun, but I think that kind of detracts. For the first race, you're thinking, "Oh, great excitement! It's a new season, blah blah blah." But I think as you go on, people won't want to see that massive overtake.
Yeah.
They want a bit of consistency,
especially when it's sort of the same formula every race. You know, a Mercedes is on pole. Mercedes will lose pole off the start because the Ferrari will get ahead.
Yeah.
And then a few laps later, the Mercedes takes over again and flies off into the distance.
The Mercedes got a good long run car, long speed, clearly looking after its tyres much better than the Ferrari. I think the Ferrari are probably burning them up very quickly because of that quick start that they have.
Yeah, they're so quick off the line that for the first few laps, they are fastest and flying, and they're really good. But then they burn through their tyres, and all of a sudden Mercedes, who were like McLaren last year, when McLaren was so good because they were able to go 60% into the race without changing tyres.
Yes, indeed. And Ferrari, over the last few years, haven't had a great track record of looking after tyres.
No, that's been easily one of their weak points across the many.
Indeed. But I think for Miami, if we go ahead because of the weather issues possible, I think it'll be interesting. It will be the boost that will catch people's attention.
Yes.
Has this improved the racing? Because it was definitely. I wouldn't like to have been Ollie Behrman.
That was
in Japan. That was a scary moment.
Yeah, and there are tweaks we'll talk about in a bit that have come after that to try and make that sure that doesn't happen. That was one of those where Colapinto, I don't think, is at fault at all for the incident. I think that's just
car clipping.
Exactly. There's such a big difference in power when you're on the boost compared to when you're not, that to try and make that reaction quickly to slow down enough or anything.
As a race driver, you're going to want to be on that racing line, aren't you? Yeah. You're not want to go into the rubbish at the side of the track. And when that car's clipping and you're on the racing line and someone's coming up behind you with boost on blind corner, it's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. Yeah. And luckily, I think, as was said, the FIA have made some changes, which will hopefully
But I guess it's like
help.
All new changes to regulations, isn't it? You've got to race it to understand it, to improve it.
Yeah, that's the thing. We can't expect the first year to be perfect because no regulation era has ever seen a first year where they're particularly popular. There's always a dislike into a regulation year when they first come in because people don't like change and you have to learn the new cars.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? People don't like that. It's the fans that you've got to cater for, and fans do not want to see cars not making the race, not being able to do a qualifying run, not being able to do a practice run. They don't want to see that. So I think let's see what Miami brings. But I would imagine the racing, it wouldn't have got through the system if the teams hadn't said that looks a little bit better.
Yeah, because I think there's definitely potential with them. The cars are smaller. There's more power in them available now. It's just a case of getting balances right between things and tweaks being made to get them to what they should be at their best. Because all we want to see as Formula One fans and drivers as well is excitement. We want to see drivers pushing at their best for every move and every overtake, and it not be a case. It's almost like a game between your batteries. So much about strategy now, and so much less about the driving.
I think there's also another point to it. What I don't want to see is that these rule changes, as they change, affect the financial rulings with the teams that don't have quite so much money to be able to just go in and change something. Let's hope that there's some dispensation that way.
Teams like Cadillac have just joined the grid. They're already struggling a lot because it's so difficult to catch up to the top when you join as a completely new team.
Indeed.
And it's just making sure that they don't, because they're already 20 odd seconds behind always.
Indeed.
Trying to keep them in the conversation because
it's I suppose the thing I was going to say is that Audi will definitely be the best newcomer. They've got to have an advantage where they've taken over a team rather than built a new team. So I suspect Audi will do fairly well this season.
Audi have the benefit of a team who have been running a team for the last few years under Sauber and have got experience of making cars and making everything.
Personnel's the same. Consistency's there within the team already. The car would have already been in that design factor from Sauber. So I think they'll shine by the end of the season.
Yeah, I think they're already looking by far. I mean, they've had probably the most issues in terms of the battery affecting whether or not they can start or not. We've seen them miss out on qualifying things and races due to it, which has been like a major issue, as I said, this season. Drivers not being able to make it to the grid because of battery issues.
It makes you a bit sad when you see Alonso going out for 4 laps and then coming in because he can't carry on.
Yeah, you see it, and then you see the video of him in China where he was on the steering wheel, he was having to take his hands off and do things to avoid the.
That can't be covered. I mean, I don't know if you. Are you driving yet?
Yes.
So if you go back to when cars were not quite as mechanical as they are these days, and you flat spotted a tyre and you'd get a little wobble in your steering wheel, well, we're magnified here, aren't we, by a huge amount. Imagine trying to grip that. No, not for me.
Awful. I think luckily Fernando is quite an experienced driver to be able to deal with that sort of thing. But
he'll rise above it, and he won't sell the team out.
No,
he'll just work with them and get that car.
And I think Aston will get there. They've clearly massively messed up this year on their car, but
it does surprise me that a team like that with the people they have within that team have not put a car down that is.
Yeah, I mean, Adrian Newey designed the car, but I suppose, have you seen all the issues of Honda as the engine supplier and the lack of communication between them?
We're not having Honda, then we are having Honda.
And it's that in itself, you can't. The engine is ultimately what makes the car run. If you can't get that line of communication smooth, it's a recipe for disaster.
Indeed. Well, it's one of those things whether that deal clearly wasn't as sealed at the end of our season as we got led to believe. So for them to say, well, we're not going to, and then we are going to, your engine's not going to be ready in time.
No, and it's been evident in the open races.
I suspect that puts them about half a season behind everybody else.
Yeah, and then you've got to try and claw that back and be ready. You almost have to forget about this year as an overall and just think next year's got to be where we get it right.
That's exactly where it'll be.
Yeah. Let's move on to the regulation changes that are coming from Miami. We've spoken a lot about the tweaks that are coming. Let's talk about what they actually are. So there have been discussions between the FAA and all Formula One teams because they've all agreed that these aren't right. These regulations aren't enjoyable for both watching and for driving.
Agreed.
And one of the main issues has been the energy management, with the 50-50 split between combustion engine and electrical unit now.
Yep.
And one of the big things in that has been super clipping, which has become immediately one of the most hated things in Formula One.
Indeed.
And frankly deserved. Drivers don't want to be driving down a straight and having to recharge their battery. But the tweak they are making, super clipping isn't going, unfortunately. We're still going to have it, but whereas before, the energy that you can recover in the car can be a maximum of 350 kilowatts, but that was limited for whatever reason to 250. They are now putting it to that 350, which will mean that when they do super clip, they have more power afterwards, which will allow it to be more on the limit again, which is what the FAA and F1 are trying to achieve with these tweaks.
As we spoke briefly earlier about the clipping and going into blind corners where you've got a car clipping in front of you, I think it will improve that to a degree. In the races that we've had so far this season, we don't see teams absolutely just wasting that battery charge in one full swoop. So when we get onto tracks which have super long straights, that's where you can, and I think that clipping then through the tighter corners, let's think Azerbaijan for instance, you'll just save it
straight.
For that straight, and then you're followed by a series of tight corners where the clipping is not going to be quite so unusual, shall we say.
Yeah, things as well like China we had a few weeks ago, if this sort of tweak was in there, I think China could have been a lot better because that back straight is miles and long.
Yeah.
And it could have been, if you had a driver being able to use all 350 kilowatts, they would have been able to put so much more down there than they were able to, and it would have hopefully delivered the better and more exciting racing than we get.
Yeah, I think over the coming seasons, drivers will relearn tracks. Essentially, they're going out relearning tracks with a new machine, and they'll learn where to use their power, where not to use your power, what will give you the best advantage.
Exactly. They've got, I mean, you don't know how the car's going to behave until you drive it the first time for real, which they've only done this year. They've had obviously time on the simulator, but time on a simulator compared to actually driving a car is forever going to be so different. No matter
totally
how much
different things.
And it's going to be a work in process over the coming years, and throughout more regulation changes and more tweaks and more changes and just understanding from driver's side, as you said, on what to do with the car. And eventually we'll get to a point in the next 5 or 6 years or so before the next regulation change where we'll hopefully be finally at a point where we understand these cars.
And let's face it, regulation changes are good for the sport because it just brings everybody back down to zero again.
Yeah, I mean, towards the end of the ground effect era, it was clear McLaren have worked this out and they are by far the best team.
Indeed.
And then you have Mercedes and Ferrari and Red Bull as your next three. Red Bull's starting to slack off a bit. But and then you've got that gap between everyone else, and the gap gets so big, especially at the top. The gap between the McLaren and everyone else by the end of the series was so big, and you have to bring that back down, and now McLaren aren't.
Indeed. Well, you again, it's about what they want the general public to see, isn't it? Good, exciting racing, and nobody wants to see somebody 3 laps down.
No.
We want them all on the same lap.
Exactly. You want everyone to be close enough to each other where everyone's fighting for something, which ultimately is what makes the sport so. And that's what in the old days when you had not in much of more of the technical stuff, it was a lot closer because it was purely based on car, and it's now. I think we have to have regulation change almost more often than we used to.
I think so.
Because the technical element adds so much, and it can really just make or break a team.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think we talked very small about IndyCar and NASCAR. Now those formulas don't have to do many regulation changes because those cars are so alike.
Yeah.
That keeps the racing exciting, which kind of tells you if you're going to make these cars and someone's going to race ahead, you've got to pull them back at some
Yeah,
point.
because in those series, they're sort of told, okay, this is how you make a car. You just make it and put your branding on it,
Yeah.
and that's basically it. And then the drivers go out and the teams get a strategy, and that's how you get better teams than
It's
not.
more strategy than
Yes.
than machine.
Yeah, whereas F1, it's always trying to be the most technically innovative and push motorsport towards new eras as the front
I
leader.
suppose we have to look at the commercial value of that because your general public, those
Yeah.
things come off those cars, and in 5 years' time they'll be on our cars.
Yeah,
Yeah, so-
F1 it develops things
Yeah.
that eventually teams go, oh, this worked really well in F1. Let's put this on our road cars.
Absolutely,
And they become almost a norm on every car.
indeed. And then we all think we're F1 drivers.
Yeah, and then we all start racing down the M4
Yeah.
until
No,
there's
we don't.
roadworks.
Just a point, we don't do that.
No, please stay underneath. Please stay underneath or at the speed limit at all times. Do not speed. Speed kills.
No. If you want to race really going fast, go and have a track day.
Yes, believe me, Silverstone, Brands Hatch, they all offer them.
Yeah.
If you want to take your car out and wreck your tyres, feel free to. They'll cost a lot to replace though.
And having done them, they are enjoyable.
Oh well, yeah, one day I want to do that. Once I've
Yeah.
got a car, that'll be a dream. Just spin it around Silverstone.
If I give you a track to go to, I would tell you to go to either Brands Hatch or I've forgotten the name of the other track now. Andover,
Oh yeah.
Thruxton. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Thruxton. Excellent track for jumping in a saloon and having a
Having a cheeky little few
having
laps.
a cheeky little one. Yeah,
See how
very
quick, if you can get it past a Porsche or something.
good. Yeah. No, they'll chuck you in a BMW and off you can go.
I don't want to drive like a BMW driver. No offense, BMW drivers, but
No.
you are most of the time twats.
No, indeed.
But let's talk. We've got a few more tweaks we can
Yeah.
talk about because we mentioned Ollie Behrman's crash in Suzuka quite a few times,
Yeah.
where the car's power difference played such a big part in that collision. So they're changing where you can use the full battery. So in key acceleration zones, the full 350 kilowatts will be available to deploy, but then in other zones, they will limit it to 250 so that there isn't such a, because in that spoon curve especially, that's one of those where they won't classify as a key acceleration zone and it would be limited to 250. Because on the straights is where you need to use all your power.
Yeah.
If you limit it more on the corners, the tighter, slower corners, then it should avoid that sort of incident again.
Let's hope that is the case. Again, I suppose you're right in that you're only going to use 2/3 of your power rather than the full amount. And yeah, hopefully that will sort out that car's approaching a clipping car and make it a bit safer.
Yeah, because that was a 50G crash is always terrifying. Behrman was so lucky to avoid any major injuries.
Indeed, yeah. So getting out of a car limping on one leg is one thing.
Yeah,
Being taken out of a car because it's gone terribly wrong, they're very different.
absolutely.
And nobody wants to see that.
No, we're lucky that we've come so far to a place where we hopefully don't ever see that again. But
Indeed.
it's those sort of crashes which you have to. I'm glad the FA have recognised that's too risky to happen again.
Very much too risky, yeah.
And they've taken the necessary steps to try and avoid it.
Yeah.
And speaking on the safety things, obviously the race starts have been quite interesting this year, but more apart from just the fact that the Ferraris are so good at them, a lot of cars struggle to get off the line.
Yes.
I've seen, like Max Verstappen, I think is the best example in China, both the sprint and the actual race. He lost 5-10 positions.
Yeah,
his car just
indeed.
didn't get going, and that causes so many safety issues with cars going around.
Again, that does come down to. I mean, obviously nobody wants to lose that, but it does come down to that safety aspect. You could be having a really rotten accident before we've even got.
Exactly, but luckily the FIA have made them going to be testing a new safety mechanism, so The actual procedure itself will stay the same, but there will be some changes due to the MGUK, which is the electrical power unit on the engine. So they're going to introduce a low power start detection system. So if they detect an abnormally low acceleration after the clutch is released, then the car will deploy a limited amount from the NGUK so that the car gets going a bit quicker than if it didn't have that go. So it won't be a fast start.
No.
But the hope is if it can kick in some electrical power, even a little bit, it just gets it kicking off the line a bit more so that the cars around it who are trying to launch off the line don't accidentally crash into the back.
Yeah, there's a thing that they used on some of the electrical road cars where if you weren't putting it, learner instructors use this a lot in their cars now, that when you go to accelerate, if you don't put enough acceleration to your clutch, it will add that on for you. So I think this is a kind of similar kind of thing. Let's compensate for you who haven't quite got that bite point correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it just means that everyone can start the race without having to worry about Max Verstappen not being able to get off the line because his Red Bull doesn't want to work.
Indeed. No, it's an ugly thing. We don't want to see that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Apple TV. I'm sure you know have taken the streaming rights for Formula One in America.
Mm-hmm.
They've created some team names.
Okay.
These are some of these are absolutely terrible. I think some of my favourites would be Williams, one team.
Right.
Now my issue with that is that there's two Williams cars,
Yes.
not one, and there's not even any member of the Williams family involved in the team anymore.
No, they've all taken silent positions within the team, haven't they? So your main race team now doesn't have a Williams person. So I'm with you. I don't like that.
No, and then Haas are meant to be an American team, so they've been called American Drive. Haas are the most non-American American team because there's nothing about Haas. No, the name isn't. I know that Gene Haas isn't American, but Haas doesn't sound American. It sounds German.
No, so Haas race in a lot of formulas.
Yes, they do NASCAR and things like
they're
that.
NASCAR, they do IndyCar, and going further down the things. Haas sounds more European than it does an American.
Yeah, and frankly, I don't even think they're going to be Haas for two. I think eventually Toyota will probably buy them. Was it Honda or Toyota? I think it is Toyota. Yes.
Yes.
I think they'll probably buy them because I think Gene Haas can't solely to get them going
since
towards the top.
Their partnership has relinquished with so they had a partnership with Stewart Racing, which is not to be confused with the British Stewarts. But since they broke up their partnership in NASCAR, it seems that they've got less cars on grids. So I think you're probably right. It will come to a point where someone will take this over.
Yeah.
Toyota being very big in American motorsport, that seems like a conclusion which is...
And they've already started to put investments in. I think it's a natural progression that we see that sort of takeover happen, and then we can stop pretending that Haas are an American team. When I first heard about Haas joining, I didn't think there was an American. I thought there was somewhere in the middle of Europe, but America was the least of my places where I thought they'd be going. Cadillac's name, the ambition meets the grid. In the words of Jeremy Clarkson, they've been ambitious but rubbish so far. Because they're slacking, and they've been slightly ambitious. I don't actually know what they've done particularly innovative, but it's not been going well for Cadillac.
No, I think we're in one of these situations where they've put on more American races. The Americans are getting more into F1 now than they were before. I think they thought we must have a token American team.
Yes.
And Cadillac have been the bravest people.
They are a proper American brand, more than Haas.
Indeed, and they've been very brave to come into it. I think they could have probably done with not coming to for F1 quite so quick,
Yeah.
and maybe have a year of testing before they joined, so that they could come to the grid and put a reasonable show on.
Yes.
I think the fact that they're just milling around at the back, not really doing anything. They are just test sessions, aren't they?
Yeah.
Again, it's nice to see another team on the grid, but let's have you ready for racing.
Yeah,
You're-
especially if I was a driver driving a race and I was thinking every time I get into that car, I'm thinking, okay, how many laps am I going to be lapped by this time? If I was Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas, two very talented drivers, knowing that you're going to get lapped every race, it'd be quite dull pretty quickly.
Well, I think from when you look at those two drivers joining that team, it's not a surprise that they joined them, because they want to be within that F1 paddock.
Yeah.
Especially if other seats may appear.
Yes.
I'm still up to current
Yeah.
cars, so to speak. So I'm not surprised that they are doing that. However, you're right. I think it must be soul destroying, knowing that you're going to be lapped 2 or 3 times, and being about 2 seconds off the pace.
Just in qualifying alone at least. Yeah. But I think from Cadillac's point of view, I suppose the benefit of having those two drivers is those are two very experienced drivers.
Indeed.
Who will hopefully be able to help them
bring it
if
on.
you slapped a rookie in the car, they're trying to learn how to drive an F1 car,
Yeah.
whilst trying to help you develop.
Yeah.
Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez know how to do that already, and whilst they have to learn the 26 cars, they can hopefully add a little bit more knowledge to push Cadillac forward.
I think the only thing that does surprise me about that, being an American team, that they didn't try to bring in an American driver.
I was expecting them to go for one, but I do suppose is there a big market that you could put an American? How many American drivers do you think could go into F1 right now? We've seen so many struggles, you said.
Again, I think it would have to be a driver that had already been in F1, gone back to IndyCar or something similar, or sports car, and then come back to F1.
Yeah.
Because they'll have a rough idea how a team will work in that case. Certainly, you're right, putting a American rookie into it. There's plenty of guys out there that probably would fit that bill.
Yeah.
But again, you're right, that's not going to drive that team forward.
No.
So who have you got out there? Probably Rossi is probably the only guy that's done F1 and who's still a current IndyCar driver. He's probably the only guy that's out there. And let's face it, when he was in F1, he didn't have the best car then, so he
probably doesn't want to go.
Doesn't want to go back.
No, I don't blame him.
No.
But there is that issue with American drivers where F1 just doesn't seem to go well for American drivers.
No, and I think that's probably why Colton Herta has gone from Indy to F2 to try and work out how, because that's the closest thing you're going to get to an F1 car. And he's probably gone there to try and figure out, one, the tracks, because he's never raced the tracks before, and two, trying to figure out how best to race a car around those circuits. And I would probably suspect that he won't be in F2 next year.
No.
He will be either a test driver for an F1 team, or he'll be a rookie on the grid.
Yeah, because I think he's tied to Cadillac as well, so if one of Bottas or Perez chooses to leave, if he gets up to scratch of how to drive in these sort of series, Colin Herta might have a little sneak.
There certainly are other F2 drivers, American F2 drivers, who are probably at the same, a bit more experienced in those cars. However, Colton Herta comes with a big bunch of money as well,
which ultimately is what F1 teams look at beyond
indeed
everything.
So Colton's got a wealth of family racing behind him, and lots of good advisors within his group to put him on that F1 grid, and I don't think it'll be long before he's there.
No, I think it's a good point, because Bottas and Perez are old compared to the rest of the grid. How many years do they have left? One of them goes, Herta stop. Even if Herta, we've seen other drivers, when drivers have to take a session out due to other reason, Herta could come into one of those if Bottas or Perez have to ever miss a race. And
I think I've seen the F2 performances from Colton Herta, and they've not been bad. They've been.
He's not there yet.
He's not there yet. He certainly, in his second race, had a bit more fortune in that race. But I guess if he is going to start doing some tests, they'll probably give him half a season of F2 first to get his feet grounded there before he comes and starts playing with the big cars.
Yeah. Let's have a look ahead, just to finish off. Let's have a look at Miami, which will be finally happening this weekend, hopefully, unless the weather ruins it. But we've had a month without F1. We've had a month in which technical tweaks are happening. The cars themselves, the teams have been able to develop and bring upgrades. What do you reckon we might see in Miami in terms of who could win?
I think we are probably going to see the same two cars, Ferrari and Mercedes, still up front, because I think they're probably a bit more on top of their cars than others. I think we'll probably see something a bit more aggressive come out of Verstappen. We hear him making lots of noise about he's not really that bothered about F1 and he'd go and do sports cars and that sort of thing. But F1 and Red Bull are not going to want to lose that talent, their front man. So I think they will probably show us a bit more. I think those street races, but certainly the American ones, they throw up a bit more of a mixed field. Yeah. So, and especially if we have some weather, that could certainly play into it.
Yeah, we had obviously Australia had a bit of rain from the start, but we haven't seen a proper wet race yet.
So if I'm hoping that it isn't thunder and lightning and that causes issues in terms of getting the race on. We'll certainly see some good practice sessions, I think, because teams will want to get out there and get their cars going as fast as they can. So I don't think we'll see much dawdling around. I think you'll see teams come out and really hit it as quick as we possibly can. And I suppose if we want to talk about an outsider coming, I think we'll also see McLaren make a step forward to what they've got.
I certainly hope so, because as a fan of McLaren and the opening race of the season, I cast back to China. I can just forget about because we didn't even race. No. That was a shambles. But
indeed.
I think, and I look back on the races and how we haven't. In the open race in Australia, Lando wasn't ever going to be able to push for anything.
No.
Then I look at China and I see Lando again struggling a bit. Oscar really did. I thought he really could have won that race.
Indeed, yeah. I thought he could, yeah.
I think that our car can start to challenge for the podiums, and I think we do just need to get a little bit on top of some issues with the car at the moment.
I think for them it's just not a panic. It's just do not panic. The season is early.
They panic so much at McLaren, and I just think we just need to take a moment to think about what the situation we're in and not overthink it as much as sometimes we do.
No, I think they still have a chance in the constructors. I think maybe the gap to Russell and Mercedes is probably too big on a driver stance at the moment to try and pull those back. But you never know. It only takes a couple of races and two non-finishes.
We've had 3 races at the end of the day. We've still got another 19 or so to go. Yeah. It can all change at the top, and Mercedes can be caught over a season.
Yeah, well, let's hope Mercedes don't get a bit cocky and think we've got it. Ferrari, I don't think they will. I think they're quite grounded and will be working hard. But McLaren definitely need to be on it.
2024 is probably the best sort of last example where we saw Red Bull for the first half of the season were the best car.
Indeed, yeah.
And that Max ultimately won his championship thanks to that early part of the season. Yeah. But then other teams, Ferrari and McLaren, they caught up and eventually took both them over and were ahead by far by the end. Mercedes
and that's
can't get comfortable yet.
That's kind of a progression we see, not always the same teams, but that's kind of the progression we see in lots of seasons gone by, isn't it? Yeah. Someone racing off into the distance, thinking, and people thinking, oh well, this season's done already. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, those cars are just, we've worked on it. We're catching up now. We can really make a go with these things.
I think the only season that we didn't have that, where it was truly one team, the best throughout the entire season, was 2023. Yeah. Because even last year for McLaren, I don't think by the end of the season, McLaren were the best car by much.
No, I think they were pretty even par with your with others out there. But I think it all comes back to rule changes again, doesn't it? I think 2023 season was a big teller to everybody. We need to change the rules because there's only one car out here that's going to win, and it's got
so boring to if you
Exactly.
watch a race and you know who's won it before you've even started it. It gets very repetitive.
Indeed. Especially when you're saying, it's not often that you will see a car on pole position by more than maybe 2 or 3 tenths of a second. And then in 2023,
Just
Verstappen was too far
ridiculous.
ahead every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to finish off, let's get predictions. For Miami. So we've got a sprint race, of course, on Saturday. Start of the sprint. Who do you reckon firstly could be on pole, and who do you reckon will finish in the top 3 for that?
As we talked about earlier about Ferrari and their fast starts, I think one of those Ferraris in that sprint race will take the win. I wouldn't like to choose which one. I think they're much.
I think they're very level.
They're very level. On the basis that I think, as we said before, I don't think they look after their tyres quite as much. And being a street race, that'll bring more damage to tyres. However, because the race is shorter, they may be able to sustain that.
Yeah, if you only have to do one pit stop, you can. If they can get enough of an advantage in the first opening 10 laps or so, then they'll have a chance more than an actual race where you've got to do another pit stop or 2.
So I'll say Ferrari for a win in the sprint race.
How about then the actual race?
The actual race, I think we'll go back to a Mercedes. Not sure whether it'll be Antonelli or whether it'll be George. I think you might get more of an idea after practice sessions. I think George is more adaptable to these things. So I've got a feeling it'll be George.
Yeah, and I think he needs to get himself back on top for himself, because Kimi in the last 2 races has been so superb, and George has been the worst driver out of the 2. He's had a month now to recalibrate and just get himself back up to scratch. So I don't think it helps when you had the added pressure of being the favourite.
Well, I saw George do an interview the other day where he said, for me, it's like starting a new season. We've had this break.
Yeah, because it almost is like the same sort of gap between Abu Dhabi and the pre-season testing.
And I think George is also not foolish enough to think that it's going to be plain sailing for him. Teams are going to have caught up a little bit. So that one bad lap in a qualifying and you could be halfway down the grid.
Yeah.
So but I think George overall will have the pace. That Mercedes will have the pace because we know it's great on the long run.
Yeah. Who do you reckon, if we say Mercedes keep this advantage out of the season, who do you reckon wins the Drivers' Championship?
That's a really tough question. Because I've watched those last 2 races by Kimi and Antonelli, I thought were very well constructed races. We still saw a few little flaws in the final few laps where he overcooked it a little bit.
Here and there,
So I think overall, because of his experience, that George.
But do you think Kimi, if Mercedes hold an advantage in the next few years, do you reckon Kimi has a championship coming his way?
I think Kimi will become a world champion.
Yeah. I think it's almost like inevitable. If he's at a team that can win, he's like in just a season. Yeah. Last season, sort of half the year, I was questioning, thinking, is it too much for him to be in such a strong car already? Back end of last season, I was like, okay, no, this guy's confident. He knows what he's doing. And then this season, he's just flowing.
I think so. I think Mercedes probably gave him a free hit last year. Go out there.
Yeah. I think they knew what the talent was. And there's like, if you make a mistake, that's okay. You've got this season to learn, and then next season, we're going to have the best car next season. We're going to kick on, and you're going to be there.
There is that, isn't it? Because the Mercedes was a reasonable car last season, but I think it's more about. I think one thing that you have to take into account is how hard those drivers are working off out of race time, interviewing, events that they've got to go to. So I think the first year for Kimi was, look, we're going to make you do all these things, but it's a free hit.
Yeah.
Go and get used to the
mistakes
lifestyle.
And live the F1 lifestyle, so then next year you're ready.
Yeah.
And he's proven himself as ready.
I think so, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much for doing this. And we'll see you next time. See you next week. Bye.